something they're not.
I have taken tens of thousands of talkback callers. She struck me as the genuine article.
Look, that might be the case.
Leave that alone. It's just like they can't make up, and the Liberal Party did this week too. They said, I winked at Tony Abbott, that's why he winked back. That is a complete fabrication. So I'm at the moment, fairly alert to people saying stuff for which there's no foundation.
John, to be fair, you are, but people understand if I say something, I am coming from a free market, Liberal Party membership perspective.
But without casting aspersions on Stella's authenticity,
or anyone else's authenticity.
Sally's absolutely right. The problem is not who's asking the question. The issue is the answer that she got.
No, look, there was no issue with the answer at all. I mean, from my perspective, as an IPA perspective, as I said earlier, the problem is the budget has only scratched the surface of the major issues Australia faces, and if we have this sort of reaction with a relatively minor budget, then what happens if we have a budget which makes the changes that needed to be made?
And what's your take on the undisciplined moment of the Prime Minister grinning and winking at me when someone talked about having to work on a sex line to supplement their meagre pension?
Look, I think what he was doing is what he said he was doing, which was he was saying he was happy to go ahead with the call. This idea that a wink to you is the defining moment of Australian politics, I think just reveals how trivial so much of the discussion is when we have much bigger issues to talk about. I think it was just an excuse for people who don't like Tony Abbott to find another reason not to like him.
The wink wasn't as sort of disturbing to me, although if I'd been filling in for you that day, I think I possibly would have been a little bit more. I found it slightly weird, but it was the changing.
He would not have winked.
It was the. Well, I don't reckon he would have. And that undoes his argument, doesn't it? And that's the problem.
His argument doesn't stand up anyway, because at no point ever with any politician, including Tony Abbott, has anyone ever said, I give you permission to go ahead with this call. Nor would they ever do that.
And John, what were you doing?
I've told everybody.
You raised your eyebrows.
I raised an eyebrow.
Okay, so
I'll show you what I did. I did this. I went, and that was it. And what did I just do? You describe what I just did.
You raised your eyebrows. So if Tony Abbott had raised his eyebrows, it would have been okay, but a wink is not okay.
Yeah, I think so. But it wasn't just a wink, it was the smirk.
Okay, it was not, it was what followed. It was what followed, and then it was remembering the camera was there and suddenly the politician's face. It was pretty evident, I think, what went on there.
What went on?
I think the whole, looking at the footage, that you've got to, it was not the kind of response you want your Prime Minister, I want my Prime Minister to have.
You know, this has gone to the Washington Post, the BBC, English papers, New Zealand, every media outlet in Australia. It's a bit like one of those, there's a reason why things go viral, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it's certainly interesting, but I'm not sure it says too much.
It's not so much, the wink was one part of it. I've heard you a few times since Jon Faine saying, oh, you know, it's such a pity though because all the substance was elsewhere. I disagree with that. This has allowed Gloria to be heard, and somebody who, and in fact, you know, people are getting totally obsessed with the fact that she worked on a sex line. So what? What she exemplified was what hundreds of thousands of pensioners and people with all sorts of other issues on low income face, and that is trying to subsidise meagre incomes within their abilities and confines. And for Gloria, you know, she's unwell, she can't leave her house. How fantastic that somebody like Gloria, who is normally a voiceless presence as far as interacting with the Prime Minister would go, has been heard, and all over the world. Bravo to her.
10:15 to your calls on the Friday Wrap. What mattered the most this week? Is it the debate about voluntary euthanasia?